Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be back here at the heart of the festival in the Lion Sustainability Hub for our first MyACT. We are going to launch this session, which is all about inclusivity. But first, we're going to look at a little message from Phil Thomas. Go.
Hi, Phil. I'm here with you today in this newly hall that you decided to create this year, the Lion Sustainability Hub. What are we going to see in the hub?
Well, what we're going to see, we hope, is an inspirational space for people to come in and to realize how creativity can heal the world. In this very fractured, difficult world, we're hearing bad news all the time. This space reminds us that together we can work to make the world a better place in so many different ways. And that's why we're so proud to host it and to host you here.
Thank you. And we have also UN Global Compact, who has a beautiful space there. How is it important for you to get all those organizations there in this specific space?
Well, I've been coming to your space at Cannes since even before I started working here. The first year was in 2006, and I remember vividly coming into your space. And you at ACT have been championing this for so long, way before it became fashionable. And we're delighted to support you and happy to support you. And we just want to partner with you to grow it, bring more partners in, and capture the imagination of the whole industry.
Wow, thank you. I was there before you because my first Cannes was 2002. Anyways, Cannes is going to be starting now tomorrow. There are going to be so many things happening. Do you want to tell us a little bit of, not where should people go, because, everything is super inspiring, but any big shout out for an event or so?
Well, there are lots of things happening. We've started a new forum, a new meeting, invitation only for chief executives. So not chief marketing officers, but chief executives. And we have about 60 global chief executives coming together on Monday to start to think about how creativity beyond marketing can add value and drive progress forward. So we feel this is a very important thing for this year. It's just one of the many, many things we have this year.
Well, thank you. Have a beautiful and great and inspirational and, amazing festival. I'm sure we're going to see each other from time to time.
For sure.
So I know you're going to be very busy, and you're already very busy. So, good luck for everything, and thank you so much for having us again.
Thank you so much, and good luck for the week.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Isa, for this great interview. Before we begin, I think we are going to introduce all our guests here.
Yes, absolutely. So
let's begin with Josh. So Josh, could you tell us who you are?
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for allowing me to be here and share a conversation. I'm Dr. Josh Loebner, Global Head of Inclusive Design for VML.
Thank you.
Very happy to be here. Thomas from Goodvertising, just to make it short and brief.
Thank you, Thomas. Singleton?
Thrilled to be here with you and your teams. I'm Singleton Beato. I'm the Global Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for McCann Worldgroup.
Thank you.
And finally...
And hi, I'm Martha, Head of Sustainability for Lions.
So Martha, I'm going to start with you. We've been working this year a lot together to create this new space for the Lion called the Lion Sustainability Hub. What's the idea behind this new space?
So we know that the issues related to sustainability are some of the biggest issues that our industry is facing. And what we really wanted to do was create a welcoming, inclusive space to bring together everyone who is here in Cannes, who wants to talk about these issues and be inspired about the solutions and the actions that exist for them to take back in their organizations back home.
So who do we have in the hub this year?
We have got some brilliant partners here in the hub this year. We have got AdNet Zero. We have got the IAA working with a brilliant Brazilian fashion designer on the most sustainable T-shirt. We've got the UN Global Compact here with their CMO blueprint for sustainable growth. We've got McCann here with the Valuable 500. And we've also got an amazing array of work entered in through the exhibition. And we also have the work entered for both the SDG and the Glass Lions Awards. So there is no end of inspiration here in the hub.
Yeah, so we're inviting everyone to come and see all the great inspirational work that there's here. Meet people, right?
Yeah.
So on our side, every day we're going to have the MyACT shows, so we can, continue your action. You wanted to bring action to the hub, and I think this is what you're really doing this year. So thank you for having ACT.
Thank you for being here.
As still in the space, and everyone come and see the space, right?
Absolutely. So now I'm going to turn to you, Thomas. You've been a pioneer for years about good advertising, brand with purpose and everything. So what makes brand purpose truly inclusive? And how do you action this inclusivity?
I mean, first up, I'm happy to see that the movement is growing, that sustainability is being taken more seriously, and the hub is also a testament to that development, I think. So I'm very happy about that. I think purpose has for many been a bit like Pokemon. Everybody was searching for it, but nobody really knows why. For me, I think the essential challenge right now with purpose is that it needs to evolve. I think brands have had a time where it was very easy to put on the hero cape and say we're very purposeful. I think now it's about performance. It's about inspiring other people to be part of it. So rather than going out and saying we're the most diverse company in the world, maybe it's about to actually open people's eyes towards some of those biases and get them to think differently. So I think that's sort of the next wave of purpose, inspiring change.
And what about if you specifically do it on inclusivity? Because this is the theme of this panel. How is it? How do you put it in the work? How do you tell the brand?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, it's a shift of mindset. So rather than making yourself the hero of a narrative and saying this is what we do, it's more about actually getting people to open their eyes up towards the benefits of diversity and inclusion. I think that's really the next step of purpose. And luckily more brands are doing that. Always Dove had been pushing this and opening people's eyes towards some of these pretty challenging agendas.
And you did something incredible. You actually had a wonderful idea 3 years ago, I think. It was open the Palais door, at least the sustainability hub, to everyone. How does this idea came, and how do you see it this year, and how do you see it in the years to come?
I think that was definitely a group effort, so I don't want to take the credit for that myself. The insight came from the fact that as a young creative, I always felt that it was quite an exclusive party. You always needed these fancy wristbands, sorry I'm not pointing at you, to come into any specific thing. And so I thought, wait a moment, the one thing I think we failed at, and I failed at as a sustainability movement, is to make it inclusive and welcoming. It's often our own little bubbles where we talk to each other. So I really wanted everybody to be part of the conversation and feel welcome. And so thanks to Cannes Lions and their support, they decided as a first, I think as well as you said 3 years ago, to open up the Palais. Ordinary people can come in, professionals who might not be able to afford the badge, whatever might be the reason. They can now come in, they can see the hub, they can have conversations with like-minded people in the space and meet some extraordinary organizations who are driving change in our industry.
And that's going to happen Wednesday from 2
Exactly. 2:30 to 4:30 on Wednesday.
Yes. So we invite everyone to come on Wednesday again.
Exactly. Yes.
I remember I'm doing a little bit of advertising break each time for people to understand that they are invited on Wednesday to the open house for goods. So now that we talk about brands and moving to being more inclusive, I'm going to turn to Josh. Josh, you are in an agency, and so how is the subject of inclusion and inclusivity in your work in agency? How is it growing, and since when it started?
Yeah, it's definitely growing. And so just to share a little bit more about my role, I focus on disability inclusion and accessibility. As you can see, I have a white cane. And for those on the Croisette or anywhere here in Cannes, I'm not going to be able to see you, but you can see me with my cane. Please stop by and say hi. And I'd love to share more about what accessibility and inclusion means. It's just been a few years, though, since accessibility has been a part of advertising, and wonderfully, Cannes is now recognizing accessibility with a number of different awards, and of course, individuals who are here and groups that are speaking on what it means to be accessible. Too often, when we think of accessibility in advertising, there's a foundational level of accessibility that's needed, and that's wonderfully welcoming to many people, but there's also an opportunity to rise above the simple foundations of accessibility, or accessibility as policy or compliance, but to be imaginative with accessibility, just like any other component of creativity, where accessibility can add layers to that are nuanced and sublime to the work. And so we listen to different people with disabilities across the globe about what's important to them and what isn't within the work that we do, so that we can bring authentic work that's brings so many different voices to recognize themselves in the work, and to have work that ultimately, hopefully, is sustainable. Too often, accessibility previously has been maybe a trend or a fad where one project may happen, but there's not consistency. It's not cumulative. It's not methodical. And hopefully there's an opportunity that people can see that accessibility should be sustainable throughout work, from every touch point of a customer journey, that for those people who are blind, it's not just an accessible website, but that there's other accessibility touch points along that path, from awareness to purchase to brand loyalty.
So tell me, how do you work? So there's in your agency, so you're heading the program, the division, the entity, and how do you work? Do you work with other group in the agency throughout the whole process of creation? Do you also work with NGOs, maybe on certain subjects, or to ask, to kind of explore, and work groups from the society?
Yeah, definitely. So just to share a little bit more about my role as Global Head of Inclusive Design, I work within the inclusion experience practice that's spearheaded and led by Esne Okuro, our Global Chief Culture and Strategy Officer. And wonderfully, the Inclusion Experience Consultancy recognizes that there is inclusion across a number of different diversities, from people of color to people with disabilities to people in queer communities, and so many others, and that together we can collectively bring our voices together in a chorus for change. We work with a number of different agency professional organizations, the EACA in Europe, the ISBA in the United Kingdom, and then different disability organizations, the Royal National Institute for the Blind in the United Kingdom, the National Federation of the Blind in the United States are just a couple, but we work across different disability types and those organizations that support those communities. And we bring them to our clients and across our teams. We have a number of different educational opportunities where our teams can learn about what accessibility means, to ensure that those pieces of work that they create can be as connective and welcoming. So wonderfully, it definitely takes many different people to bring these ideas to life, but the underlying theme across it all is how can we go beyond where we are to possibilities of accessibility, again, being much more seen as imaginative and creative.
I have one last question. How does the client respond to when you come with your approach? How do they respond? Are they asking you, or is the agency advising?
So that's a wonderful question. And what I will say is there are some agencies that have heads of inclusive design and heads of accessibility and champions for allyship. There are others that don't. And on the client side as well. As an example, Unilever has an accessibility center of excellence that's led by a former Paralympian, Mark Powell. And there are some clients as well, Microsoft, that's spearheading accessibility very innovatively and has a head of inclusive design as well and a chief accessibility officer. And there are others where it's a new conversation, which is wonderful, right? We're all on a different point along that pathway of progress for sustainability, for accessibility. And it's not up to us to wag our finger and say, why aren't you further ahead? It's up to us to hopefully join arm in arm down that pathway of progress wherever they are to get towards hopefully a further goal ahead.
Thank you so much for sharing all this incredible work you're doing. So now I'm turning to Singleton. Since Singleton, you've been all over the place about the Valuable 500.
Yes.
And there's a new program, and I would like you to tell us about it and what it's all about.
Yes. So our work at McCann Worldgroup focuses on the philosophy of conscious inclusion. And this is really baked into how we talk about both our end-to-end talent practices as well as our end-to-end creative process. And we believe by creating the conditions internally where all of our people can feel a sense of connection, belonging, and shared purpose every day, we can motivate and inspire the type of energy that drives inclusive creativity to change the world. And in so doing, we've got a few great partners that we work with, and inclusive creativity is important not just for marketing and advertising, but for these organizations that literally spend 100% of their time trying to enable this inclusion. And so Valuable 500 is just such an organization. We are just very, very fortunate to partner with them. They have hundreds of member organizations that are brands. So some of the top global brands like Microsoft, like MasterCard, on and on, L'Oreal, are their members. And what they seek to do is to end disability exclusion in our industry. Now, one of the things that I love about their work is they're not just reminding us of what we need to do, at how far we have yet to go to ensure that this important population is included, and not just at the end of the creative process, but from the very beginning of how we ideate and think about what we want to take to market. They have created a great award program of their own. And you're going to hear much, much more about this because we're going to have advertising up and down the Quaset this week to talk about it. And you'll see more about that. But they will be awarded in December in Tokyo during Valuable 500's Sync conference, which is where they bring together thought leaders from around the world to celebrate those companies that are doing well in this space and that are being progressive, and then also to provide tools to help companies that are not there yet understand, well, how do you make sure that your work is inclusive? How do you make sure that you have a systematic approach to accessibility? And how do we make sure that we acknowledge the intersectionality of this group? You know, the disability community is the only one that most of us will become part of at some point in time or other. And so it really is in everyone's best interest to make sure that when we are creating products or when we have services that we want to market, that we are doing so with this important community in mind from the very beginning. Because, not only is creativity important to inspire change in the world, but there is incredible profitability that brands are missing out on. This is, a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity being left on the table. So the Valuable 500 work is really making sure that everyone in the marketing and advertising ecosystem is very clear about this opportunity. They are also celebrating and enabling brands and agencies to elevate their own proposition when it comes to disability inclusion. And then they're also showing the way forward. So I love that we're here talking about this in the Sustainability Hub, because we're talking about business sustainability and making sure that we are inclusive of all groups, especially those that are traditionally underrepresented or on the margins, are considered and are connected with in a way that is resonant and respectful and meaningful.
And how do you see it? Do you see any obstacles to implement this inclusivity? How do you see?
So the first obstacle is that we are humans that have been conditioned to focus on a majority of people and what large swaths of people might enjoy. And therefore, we're not delving deeply into the nuances of different communities and what different people actually need in order to live their lives and have great lived experiences. So the first obstacle is we have to stop thinking about ourselves and what we would enjoy or what we need if we are people that are in sort of that traditional group of folks that receive marketing and advertising messages. So that's why we talk about conscious inclusion in my organization, because we're telling people you have to be conscious of the fact that you're not thinking about so many communities that would be well served by understanding more about your products and services, and let's find the respectful and resonant way to connect with them. So that's the first obstacle. The next obstacle is the speed in which we create our work in the day-to-day very often leaves little time for the conscious actions that are required to be inclusive, right? I've often said that speed is the enemy to inclusion, right? Because when you're moving so quickly, you cannot be conscious. You just have to get the thing done. And very often it is too late in the game of the process of creating work that we say, oh, wait a minute, we're not including all of these other communities and people that really we want to not only represent in our work, but that we want to connect with. And so I think that's the next piece, is really the speed in which we do things. Finding creative interventions that we can apply in our work process, I think will help this. I think especially when you're talking about accessibility, whether you're talking about it in the workplace, those are things that we can do. When you're talking about it in creative work, those are things that we can do. So I think it's really the obstacles are that we've just been conditioned to think a certain way for so long, and it works, and so we continue to do it until something disrupts us to say, wait a minute, there's an opportunity that you're missing here. So I think those are many of the obstacles that we see. The final obstacle I will say is that very often inclusivity is sometimes seen as an added step to what is beautiful creative work, right? Very often the conversation is, well, the campaign and the work can't be beautiful artistically and inclusive. Those things are not at odds, but it just requires us to move forward a little bit in our creative thinking to ensure that all of those objectives are met. So those are the obstacles as I see them.
Okay, and do you overcome them in your work, in your agency?
Well, I think we have a major advantage because we have worked with very progressive brands, and those brands and their teams welcome our ideas and our thinking around conscious inclusion and around making sure that we are delving deeply into those nuances in culture that would allow us to be able to address things like personalization. Well, how are you ever going to get to personalization if you can't recognize first the subcultures of the macro culture, right? So I think that we've got these great partners in our marketing teams that welcome our ideas and our strategic thinking around that. Conscious inclusion is embedded in our strategic operating system that is applied to every single campaign that we do. So we start from the very beginning. And I think, too, the other way that we overcome some of these challenges is that very often we spend time thinking about what's happening in culture. We've got this great organization within our company called Truth Central. And their job is to think constantly about what is happening in culture around the world and how that influences decisions when it comes to products and services. So we really have this ethos where we're thinking about how can we make sure that we are as inclusive as possible for all of these audiences around the world and the intersectionality that's included there.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you, all of you, one last question. What would you like to say to the audience out there? Josh, first.
Yeah, definitely be open. One other obstacle that I would suggest is, particularly with disability, it's the forgotten, marginalized group. And so be open to recognizing that there are people who are curious, who are excited, who want to be brand loyal. But what that takes is to remember those groups that are out there that maybe need to be welcomed through accessibility and inclusion. And also that it's an opportunity to be an ally. If you're not disabled, there's a consideration where you can support that community by learning about how within your work you can be more accessible, how you can rise to the occasion maybe where others aren't and showcase creativity and accessibility in a way that hasn't been done before. So those things I think I would say to be an ally and also look for that space that hasn't been carved out before that you can within your work with regards to accessibility and disability inclusion.
Thank you, Josh. Singleton, do you have?
I'd like to say two quick things to really connect with Josh's point. We forget that the disability community also has people that are their family members and that are people that care about them. And so when you are considering this very addressable audience in your work, remember that there are those of us who will recognize the signals that a brand sends in their messaging that says whether or not you care about someone I care about. And if I understand that you do not, then I need to take my money elsewhere. So that's an important point. And the other point is that when we think about creativity, there's a lot of work that goes into creating these campaigns. Well, creative people and those people that support them in the agency need to understand that when you do not include disability from the beginning, what happens is your creativity cannot be fully appreciated in this world because there are so many people that can't engage with it or receive it. So this is part of making sure that creativity in its fullest breadth and strength can be recognized, realized, and celebrated.
Thank you. So now I'm going to turn to you, Martha.
So I work across all of the different aspects of sustainability, but particularly on the kind of environmental and climate side of things. And what I would say there in terms of inclusion is what I really hope we've created here in the hub this week and with all the content that we have on sustainability throughout the week is that this is a place for people to come together, to have those honest conversations, to not let perfection be the enemy of the good, to come to those conversations with humility and be honest about what they do or don't know and ask for help and how they might be able to work together, because because it is only through truly being inclusive and truly working together as a community across all the different communities that come together under the sustainability agenda that we will really make that progress.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we've tried with Sophie, Martha, the Lions team, and to create in this space for years, and now again stronger, is act as a meeting point for people with all this experience, amazing ways in world to come and meet each other and talk to each other, and all those differences are just what makes our world great. And it's not because I think there is a little a disconnection in between our professional world, where we need to be like this and that and not inclusive as we would be in our personal world, where with our friends and our families and the people we care about, we are open and we include everyone. And I think, there's still a little fracture in between the personal and the professional world. So I'm super happy to invite everyone to the hall. I would like to say thank you to the Lions, thank you to Sunglasses and all the team behind us for making this possible, the MyACT, to Good Advertising. Thomas left because he has something else to run to, for making it that possible. We will distribute the MyACT on the ACT YouTube channel and share it with all of you, so you can push it everywhere, so everyone can listen to this conversation. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you so much, Singleton. Thank you so much, Martha, for being here. And we will be here tomorrow, Soph?
Yes, tomorrow.
You will be presenting with Thomas.
On democracy, yes.
Voices of Democracy.
Voices of Democracy.
Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.